Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be replacing a CV axle on a 2012 Dodge Caliber because it's worn out. So first things first, ordered a CV axle on Amazon for 70 bucks. Straightforward. Bins here, bins there. Let's go ahead and jack the car up. Never forget your jack stand. So, just upon inspection, you can see in and out has a lot of play. And I'm suspecting, since this rubber boot is torn, probably just got a bunch of dirt in that constant velocity ball in there. So just rapidly wore it out. If I would have caught that boot, I could have potentially fixed it or kept it from going bad. First things first, we got to remove this cotter pin. And it broke. I have a series of washers and then a nut we need to remove. What I did was I took a big wrench, this one's 1.25 inches, and whacked it with a hammer, and that knocked it loose. Remove the nut on the sway bar link. Now we need to remove the 2 nuts that connect our strut to our assembly. One here, one down there. Now we're going to need to put the nut back on both of our bolts and then whack them out with a hammer. We also need to remove this bracket right here for our brake line and then our ABS line. Also going to need to remove this bolt right there. Now we can zip the nut off that goes to our tie rod end. Now it just wiggled right out. Now that we got it out, we need to pull it out. Sometimes you can just yank on it, it'll pop out. If it's in there tight, take a big pry bar and you can pop it out like that. See, we can stick our pry bar against the transmission and we should be able to pop it out. So I'm not sure if this is normal, but as soon as I popped the CV axle out, fluid just started pouring out, so I'm not sure if it was overfilled, but look how black that fluid is. Yuck. So now that the CV axle is in, I got it. You're gonna have to spin it because there's splines on it until it slides all the way in and locks, and then it'll stop leaking fluid. And now that we have it in, we can go ahead and get our shaft to go inside of the whatchamacallit. Now that it's seated, go ahead and put the nut on there. And you want to keep wiggling it and tighten it until it seats all the way in, and then you should be able to fit this in there. So since the steering's all out of whack from the strut, I'm going to have to undo the tie rod end. Usually you can just hit it with an impact, but this one is spinning free. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to put a wrench on the nut and then another wrench on this stud to keep it from spinning. I don't have the right wrench, so I'm just going to put a pair of vice grips on there. I should be able to break it loose. You can see how easy. Now and that'll make it where we can turn this. Okay, so if you're not replacing this tie rod end, what you're going to want to do is get you a BFH and hit the side of this knuckle right there, and usually it'll pop out. You really don't want to hit right here you'll damage the ball joint. You really don't want to hit back here, you'll damage it. So as long as your ball joint is tight and the weather boot is good, not torn, you should be able to just reuse it. So now it's loose. We can move out of the way. I'm gonna go ahead and take a jack and jack it up. You're gonna have to put the car in neutral, put the parking brake on so you don't die, and then as you're pushing upward toward the strut, you want to shake the rotor, and it'll finally seat down in there. And now we can put our bolts back in. All right, now we just got to put our brake hose line back on and our ABS line, 2 bolts. All right, now our tie rod can go back in. Now we can tighten our sway bar link. Right, and our last bolt for the ABS sensor line. All right, now throw the tire back on and we will take it for a test spin and see if it's still clunking. Don't forget your cotter pin. Definitely don't need that flying off on the highway. The wife would not be too happy about that. Yep, it's pretty bad. Bit of off-road, no noise. We'll take it on the highway. Could just be this brand new road, but I've noticed her car has always kind of sounded like replaced the rear bearings like maybe about a year ago.